Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Cultured Gamer. On this week's episode, we talk about the recent Red Dead Redemption port drama. We also talk about the recent Switch 2 rumors and more. Stay tuned. And welcome to another episode of The Cultured Gamer. I am your host, Jason Carmona. With me again is Ernest Johnson.
Hello again.
And some breaking news kind of jumped off this morning on the Destiny 2 front. So we're going to talk about that very briefly. As many know, Lance Reddick was an actor that passed away recently, and he has a character that has a predominant role in the Destiny lore and overall narrative. He's a focal character. Lance Reddick was an actor popular in the John Wick series and other various forms of media. So not too long ago, he passed away suddenly, and the Destiny community mourned his death as, again, his character is central to the overall narrative. This morning, Bungie announced that they will honor Lance by including his remaining dialogue in the upcoming DLC. And after that, going forward, he will be recast by Keith David. Keith David is very popular 80s, 90s actor. You may have seen him in They Live. That's one of my favorite movies that he's in. He's also
Men at Work.
Yep, Man at Work. He's also a very predominant voice actor in cartoons and video games as well. This is uh, unfortunately, the news of Lance's passing was, very heartfelt and sudden, and it really rocked the community. A lot of folks went to visit him in the hub level of the game and went to pay their respects as his character kind of just stands at the hub. Um, and yeah, with Keith David coming in, I feel like, great to honor Lance and not to scrub his remaining dialogue from the game. But going forward, I feel like Keith David really will add that gravitas that is needed for that character. Ernest, before we move on, do you have any quick thoughts about the recasting of Lance Reddick with Keith David in Destiny 2?
I'm just gonna say if you've got to replace him with anybody, you can't do much better than Keith David.
Right. No,
He's pretty much just loved by all.
Yeah.
He's recently it's not like he's a newcomer to video games, so it's like,
Mhm.
well, Keith David's great, but how is he gonna translate to doing voiceover work?
Mhm.
He was, in my opinion, probably the best part of playing Saints Row 4.
Mhm.
So I really enjoyed his work recently in that game, and I personally don't play Destiny, but if I did, I would totally be looking
Mhm.
forward to seeing him fill those shoes.
Yeah, I played Destiny 1 pretty tough. That I was all about Destiny 1. I played the Taken King. And Yeah, I was very involved in that first game. The second game kind of lost me a little bit before Bungie took the reins and went independent with that game. Uh, exiting from the clutches of Activision. But I didn't really get to play Destiny 2 a whole lot, and but he was predominant in Destiny 1, and it's very sad whenever an actor who's known for a role passes. But if you're gonna replace, you know, the late Lance Reddick, who's an amazing actor in his own right, with
Absolutely.
you got to have somebody who can match that gravitas.
Yeah, yeah.
And Keith
And that
David,
presence.
yes, and Keith David, in my opinion, uh, is definitely that. Um, he's amazing. He's one. I grew up with his movies,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
uh,
They live. So need
yeah, that's
anybody
my
say
favorite. That's one of
more?
my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So once again, R.I.P. to Lance Reddick, but I think Keith David taking over, is a good choice. It's a strong choice.
I
Um,
agree.
So we're going to move on to one of our head topics for today. We talked a little bit of this last time. It was the main topic of our last show, so we're going to open it up with it this time. So Peacock is announcing that the recently released Twisted Metal TV show has set audience records for their streaming network. So among the records set, it's considered Peacock's most binged comedy to date. Viewers watched at least 3 episodes per sitting, with some watching all 10 in one sitting. Uh, so yeah, 3 episodes per sitting ratio is pretty good, I think. It's keeping the audience engaged. Uh, like myself, like I mentioned last week, I watched maybe first 7 episodes back to back to back to back to back, and then I finished the last 3 the following morning. Um, I found it very entertaining. The show has had 400 million viewing minutes in the first weekend alone, which is very impressive. I know that there's a lot of conflicting reviews amongst other gamers. I know that there's a page that I follow called Gamers and More, and he's an avid Twisted Metal fan, and he didn't really care for the series itself. David Jaffe, the creator of the show, uh, also voiced his opinion, said he loved it. Ernest, you and I actually had a chance to sit down and watch some episodes. Were you able to finish the series?
I didn't finish the series, but I watched a few more episodes.
Okay.
I'm up to like I think episode 6 or 7 now.
Okay. And what do you
And
think of it so far?
I gotta say, above all, it's entertaining, but it is hilarious. I mean, it is really funny. It's definitely the best. I haven't seen Anthony Mackie in anything I've liked him in more than this show. I mean, this show
Right.
is. I'm sorry, this show is absolutely hilarious. If there's one
Hmm.
takeaway, is that it is very funny. This is
Yeah.
definitely my sense of humor. Now, it kind of goes, in my opinion, with the humor over the top, kind of throws everything at the wall and
Hmm.
sees what will stick because not everything sticks, but a
Right.
lot of stuff does stick, and it's pretty funny. It's very raunchy. I like that it's like R-rated. You know,
Hmm.
it's a fun time. It's entertaining as hell. It's fun. It's not that slow paced.
Yeah.
I do wish that it had more vehicular car combat. That's maybe
Right.
like the one thing. But again, it is a series, so there is somewhat of a budget that which kind of makes it hard to
Yeah.
do Twisted. But then again, it's a Twisted Metal show. We haven't had a new Twisted Metal since the PS3 era, so I kind of it's like people's opinion is going to go either they want it to be
Hmm.
like just like the game series
Hmm.
and be really canonically close, or others kind of like me who are like, look, if you're going to adapt a game and make a show or a movie out of it, I don't know. I'm not looking for a facsimile of the game. I'm
Hmm.
looking for them to just kind of it's a show or a movie. It's not the game.
Right.
So my opinion, you got to kind of in some ways do your own thing, pay homage, and
Hmm.
you got to kind of have a balance. The show is a pretty decent balance. It could have really been not that great, but the writing and the performances and the actors that they chose are all really good. I would definitely I'm sorry, it's really funny. I would recommend it.
Yeah.
Like it made me laugh out loud, which
Yeah.
I'm a
I,
quiet laughing kind of person. I laugh to myself a lot, but this show made me kind of pause it and laugh and be like, "Oh, it's pretty funny."
it has a lot of stupid humor in it,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I like that.
it can be kind of childish at the same time, but I think the
Yeah,
show knows when to take itself seriously and when not to. And
yeah,
like you
yeah.
said, it is an adaptation for television, so they do have to build upon the narrative, and introduce characters that are going to carry the story forward for multiple seasons. um I agree that it could have a little bit more vehicular combat, but I was surprised with how much it actually had, considering that it was a TV show. I don't think that the budget would be too strained with vehicular combat. You're just blowing up junk cars,
Mm.
and you could buy junk cars and model them up for fairly inexpensive and blow them up, shoot them up. Just
Yeah,
wreck them
true.
all to hell. And I don't think it would cost as much as people think it would. The camera equipment would probably cost more than the cars and the vehicles, and the
Yeah, like
pyro.
the directing and
Yeah,
setting everything up. Yeah,
right. Like the actors and maybe the equipment rentals would probably be the most expensive part of the budget, I would think.
Oh, speaking of actors, Samoa Joe. Again, I just gotta add something that is important that I forgot to mention. I mean, I don't want to say he kills it as Sweet Tooth. He just
Literally.
absolutely he obliterates as Sweet Tooth, especially considering that Will Arnett is voicing the character. And I know you're kind of like, well, you weren't. It didn't seem like you were completely sold with him. I'm sorry. I really thought his voice was just
Yeah,
fantastic
you get
as
used to
Sweet
it
Tooth.
after a while. Yeah, you do get used to it after a while.
I was surprised. I thought it was good, but the thing is that you're thinking, okay, well, he's voicing the character, so all Samoa Joe really has to do is just kind of walk around and act
Uh-oh, we lost Ernest.
expressions and
There he goes.
maneuvers and things like that. I still think that he was very expressive physically for this role,
Oh
which
yeah,
was
definitely physically
and
imposing for sure.
yeah, and just his comedic timing and his just his mannerisms, expressions, all that kind of stuff was just, in my opinion, like expertly done, really well done.
So our next topic is we're going to talk about one of the headlines today. Rockstar recently announced that they are porting, not remastering, not remaking, but porting Red Dead Redemption to the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4, not PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4. And for all intents and purposes, it's an exact port. It may have some minor upscaling to 1080p, but um, other than that, it's packaged with the Undead Nightmare. They made the announcement on their Twitter on August 17th. The beloved Western experience, Red Dead Redemption, and its horror companion, Ultimate or Undead Nightmare, arrived together for the first time on Nintendo Switch and modern PlayStation systems. They say modern PlayStation system, but there is no PS5 native iteration. And a lot of people were very upset. They were quick to show comparison shots. And the comparisons really do show that this is a straight port. There's no remastering being done, no additional, bells
No
and whistles
frills.
being added, no frills. It's just a straight port. So, Ernest, let me ask you this: what are your thoughts on the news of them releasing Red Dead Redemption for modern consoles? Oh, and the last thing is that this port is going to be $50 on both consoles, and that the physical editions aren't releasing until mid-October. So, with that in mind, Ernest, what do you think about the news of this re-release? The fact that it's got no enhancements at all, no online multiplayer. It's just both the DLC campaign and the story campaign. And what do you think about it selling for $50? Let's start at the beginning.
Ooh, yeah, this is I mean, look, this is, in my opinion, overall this is bogus. Like the price is hilarious. It's almost like a joke. It's almost like Rockstar is like, yeah, we know this is ridiculous, but let's just be like the let's just be current day Rockstar and be like, let's see how greedy we can get with this, and it's almost like a joke. Like, why on earth would you release this at $50? That's for one. Two, now personally, I wouldn't be like ecstatic, but I would be okay if we got 60 frames per second. There'd be like, okay, well, there's an enhancement there. 1080p is, or even 4K is not enough. Like, I'm not rebuying this at $50 for 4K at 30
Oh,
FPS. Is
definitely not.
just not happening. Like, that's not even lazy. That's almost like insulting. Like Rockstar's like, you're gonna take this, gonna double the frame rate. Like, that's just, again, it's insulting. I do say for the Switch, it's kind of cool because, like, I mean, realistically, you're not going to really get much enhancement on a Switch port of this game anyway. But and it never came to the Switch, and so now people can play it like on the go and at 30 frames per second. Again, that's kind of like what you would expect from a Switch version. I still think that the price is just, I'm not even going to just say it's hilarious. It's ridiculous. And yeah, okay, it comes with Undead Nightmare. Okay, that's kind of cool, but no online. I'm not really an online player, but I just feel like at that price point, you gotta. And if you're not gonna really upgrade the performance or anything like that, or the models or the textures, man, like at the very least, you got to throw in online multiplayer, especially if you threw in the Undead Nightmare DLC. Like, why stop there? Especially again, if you're gonna charge $50, like I would say this makes no sense to me, but the current day Rockstar, it does make sense. It's horrible. It's just absolutely horrible. But you know what? Hey, I mean, whatever. Like, it is what it is, right? It's definitely not
Yeah.
for me. I own the original, so again, if you own the original, which I mean, it's Red Dead Redemption, everybody should have this game because it's a classic. It's one of those games that everybody told me was good. I
Mhm.
picked it up on the cheap, and it kind of sat on my shelf for a while. And then when I got to it, I was
Yeah.
anybody make me play this sooner? And
You're
everybody's like, well, we
dropping
did tell you to play it sooner. I'm like, yeah, this is a masterpiece.
you're dropping
So
out
everybody
quite a
should
bit.
play it.
Yeah, you're dropping out quite a bit, Ernest. But I have to agree. Part of me is actually really happy that this release is coming out because with the lack of backwards compatibility on PS4, it's great that PS4 owners who may have not played it on PS3 or missed it on because they had PlayStation, you know,
Like if they
3
didn't
or
have an
Xbox.
Xbox,
Yeah,
yeah.
they didn't have an Xbox and maybe missed it, or maybe they weren't of age when it came out. And, we have a lot of new teenagers now who were infants when that game first came out. And,
Yeah, it's true. It's just that the price and no
yeah,
60
so that's
FPS.
good. So I'm happy that it's coming out. However, I'm disappointed in the fact that there's no enhancements. Although you almost can't begrudge them for not doing enhancements because they tried that with with Grand Theft Auto Collection, and
Yeah, but they got a horrible developer to do that.
sure.
It's like you're
So
you're you're
so
piling in so much money
right.
from GTA
So
Online.
So funny that you say that because the team that is actually developing this, and I'm going to pull up their wiki now, is Double 11 Games. So Double 11 Games is a British video game developer and publisher in Middlesbrough, and they are currently handling the conversion of this game. And I'm going to read off some of the titles that they've worked on, and tell me if it instills faith in the project itself. So they're known for working on the Vita iterations of Little Big Planet and Limbo. They did Pixel Junk Monsters Ultimate, Pixel Junk Shooter, and Shooter Ultimate. They did Frozen Synapse Prime. They did Limbo for the consoles as well. Nom Nom Galaxy, Goat Simulator MMOR, Goat Z Edition, uh, more Pixel Junk, Monsters, Shooters, Prison Architect, Lego Harry Potter 1 through 4, years 1 through 4, and years 5 through 7. Super Cloud Built, Songbringer for the consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. Prison Architect, I think we mentioned already. Doctor Who Infinity for Android and OS. Crackdown 3 for Windows. Minecraft Dungeons for consoles and computer. Rust for PS4 and Xbox One. RimWorld for PS4 and Xbox One. And the recent Red Dead Redemption, which they are developing alongside Rockstar San Diego. So, knowing that they've developed those games, Ernest, do you have as much faith as a Grove Street or more?
Definitely more than Grove Street.
Hmm.
For sure more
Yeah,
than Grove Street, for
yeah,
sure more.
yeah.
However, Grove Street was tasked with, remaster or remaking kind of the original Grand Theft Auto trilogy.
Hmm.
Here, they're not doing really any enhancement. All they're really doing is porting the original game as
Sure.
quote unquote as faithfully as possible
Hmm.
without adding really anything. So it's
Hmm.
like just take the game, just port it, don't mess with it, don't
Right. I,
improve
I
it.
can't I can't begrudge them for taking that route only because the remaking, remodeling, refreshing route, they tried to do that with an AI tool, and it
Yeah.
didn't work.
Well, that's
Obviously it would.
lazy. I mean,
Yeah, no, it's lazy. And had they taken a hands-on approach to remastering that game, It probably would have taken a little bit longer, but it probably would have been a lot better, well received, and you wouldn't definitely have had as many issues as you did.
Yeah, it probably would have
No,
sold better too. It probably would have made them more money.
right, exactly, and it wouldn't have tarnished the GTA name and
Right.
brand.
Yeah.
I can't begrudge them for not taking the same methods for Red Dead, the Red Dead port, because by just converting it and porting it and not having to do any additional fixes or remodeling or reworking of the assets, you are staying a little bit truer to the original intent of the game and the design of the game. Don't have to worry about those extra costs and flub ups from running it through their AI, their AI processing. The issue I have is that this is a 13 plus year old game, maybe even older than that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're probably approaching more towards 13 to 15, and we're still charging $50 for it. And the reasoning is because they feel that um,
Yeah.
the product stands the test of time and it's worth $50. Never mind that you can actually go to Amazon right now and pick up the same game on Xbox One 360. You can buy the Xbox One iteration, which has the packaging for both. It says 360, Xbox One, whatever. And that version alone includes the same DLC online mode and is going for less than $30 right now on Amazon. And this is sold via Rockstar directly. So if you're double dipping, if you already own this game on Xbox Series SX and it's backwards compatible, you're not losing anything from already owning it or buying it on Xbox. It's great for PlayStation fans. It's great for Switch fans, but I don't know if I would say it's great at that price point. I wouldn't agree with that.
No, and I see what you're saying, but for me, it's like, again, like we're saying, it's maybe not quite 15-year, but it's almost 15-year-old game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry if you're gonna print a disc and new packaging for PS4, and you're gonna do all that, then you need to give us 60 frames per second. Like, I'm sorry, like it's not like this is a small studio, and they just want to make sure that they get a clean version of it without bugs, because this is like Rockstar. They're like, Grand Theft Auto 5 is still making so much money. Like, what are they even doing with all that money aside from investing in Grand Theft Auto 6? I mean, I'm sorry, but like with that kind of money and that kind of power, you don't have to remake the game. But if you're gonna put it on like PS4, then you need to do 60 frames per second for a 15-year-old game. I'm sorry, especially if you're gonna charge $50. If you're not gonna do both of those things, then like, in my opinion, like, get the hell out of here. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Well, if you didn't have an Xbox 360, if you only had a PS3 and there's no backwards compatibility, I mean, well, you know what? Then this should just be like on the PlayStation Store, like as just it's the PS3 version of this game for like, I don't know, $15 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
50
Well,
bucks is hilarious.
With the current landscape, and we'll talk about that in a second because that's going to be our next topic, is that if they did just port the PS3 version, that would be streaming as it stands, as it's in its current iteration. We don't want to jump stories too far ahead right now, but right now all PS3 games are streaming. So I don't know if that I don't know if that necessarily would make it even better to play. I would almost argue that, and you would probably agree, that streaming the PS3 version would probably be worse than just buying this port, because of the fact that you're dealing with streaming, inherent lag that comes from that, and graphical hiccups and glitches, artifacting and whatnot. So yeah, looking at this again, there's almost no difference from the Switch version that's the docked version, to the PS4 Pro, to the PS3, other than like the shading of lighting, which I almost kind of prefer on PS4 and Switch a little bit more. It looks a little bit more natural, as opposed to the washed out bright colors of the PS3 version. I'm not sure if that was a setting that they chose just for this shot right here, but that PS3 version looks heavily saturated.
Well, it's not a one-to-one shot, and there is dynamic weather in the game, so it could be that, because there's like a lot of bloom in that PS3 picture, a little bit of like almost like kind of like color bleed a little bit. It's like overexposed and all that kind of stuff. And on the PS4 picture, it looks a little bit more, maybe more muted, a little bit
Right.
more realistic. But again, that could just be like a little bit higher res, different time of day,
Mhm.
and even those shots, they're not one for one. Like you can tell by main character's mouth, it's like slightly open on the PS3 version. On the PS4 picture, it's completely closed, which it means it's not exactly one to one. So,
Right.
who knows? It's again at the end of the day, it's going to look pretty much the same. So if you're like, well, I never got to play it, I'll just pick it up on PS4 and I'll be able to, to experience it versus not being able to experience it. Cool, sort of, but you kind of got shafted because like
Yeah.
the price is all wrong. It's not really. It's like you may not want a huge upgrade, but I mean, without 60 frames per second, I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I understand what you're saying as far as younger people jumping in,
yeah.
but okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we won't have to wait very long to see how it does because it is
Yeah,
releasing
yeah.
on August 17th digitally
Hmm.
first. And then later in October it'll be
That's even
available
more
at
funny,
retail.
by the way. That's
And
fifty
and and
dollars
that's
digitally.
and that's if it's even a successful port. If it's really
See
bad,
if it's
then
is it buggy?
yeah, if it's buggy, then they might not even do the retail port, or they might minimize how many copies they actually make. Kind of like the Grand Theft Auto collection,
Mm,
yeah, so we'll see next week how that does, or in the coming weeks. Hopefully, it's a reliable port, and they get sales or drop the price on it fairly quickly.
yeah.
Obviously, they're
Hopefully,
trying to yeah, obviously they're trying to subsidize costs with the upcoming Grand Theft Auto 6. They're spending millions upon billions to make
yeah,
that
but you
game.
know what?
So,
I think they've made enough off of GTA 5 to,
oh, for sure. After
I think
after
they,
three console generations, yeah, you would think
yeah,
so,
yeah.
right?
You would think
Um,
so, yeah.
yeah. So our next story, Ernest, I'm not sure if you are participating in this right now, but the PlayStation 5 um, has a dashboard beta that's happening right now. I'm regularly enrolled in these betas, so when they start, I automatically get the redeem code sent to me, and they, ask me questions throughout the process, and I offer feedback and whatnot. But this new beta that released snuck something in called which is known as internally as Project Chronos. So Project Chronos has been revealed as their PS5 cloud streaming program. So people who are subscribed to PlayStation Plus, they know that the service offers, much like Game Pass, a streaming method to playing some of the games, so you don't have to waste hard drive space, and you can just kind of play right away, jump into the game, and see if it's something that's worth your time and interest. So some of the details of Project Chronos. Um, it is currently active right now for a handful of PlayStation Beta members. I know that not everybody who's participating in the beta has access to this Project Chronos. I do. And so I've tried it for a little bit. First, I'm going to ask for your thoughts, and then I'm going to tell you my experience with it. But a little bit of details on Project Chronos. The general gist is that it streams PS5 games up to 4K. The project development began about 5 years ago when they were developing the PS5. PS5 SSD is so fast, apparently, that Sony had to build a custom storage server called Cura, spelled Kura. PlayStation has 28 data centers supporting this new initiative, and it's expected to launch in March 2024. Ernest, I already know what your thoughts are about streaming
Yeah,
and this
pretty much.
initiative, but go ahead and tell everybody what your thoughts are
I'm just
about PS5 streaming.
I'm out just on even if it's like really good. It's like no, you actually be really surprised. It's quite solid. It's actually very good. I'm out just on basic principle.
Hmm.
Even if it's like, for all intents and purposes, it's flawless. That's great. I feel like this is great for a lot of people. Now, I will say this: if let's just say in a semi perfect world, if it was free, I would utilize it kind of like what you said to just check out a game real quick, try it out, just kind of see if it's like, I actually wasn't interested in this game. I just checked it out really quickly. It's like super awesome. It's now on my radar. Or I could check out a game and be like, whoa, I thought I was expecting to really like this. And I can tell immediately this is like not my thing. So I'm glad I got to just play it real quickly and determine this is not a game for me. So I think that cloud gaming is good in that purpose. You don't have to use hard drive space. You don't have to install. You can just quickly just kind of jump right in real quick, and just mess around and see if it's something that you even want to give any more thought to in the future. But other
Mhm.
than that, as far as like playing a game for real, I would never do it. Even if like it was like for all intents and purposes pretty good quality, pretty good consistent gameplay, just not knowing if it's 100% perfect or not. It could be 99.9 or 96% or whatever, or it could fluctuate. The fact that there's a possibility of any fluctuation at all renders the whole thing illegitimate for me personally. That doesn't mean that it's bad or that it's wrong, but on a personal level, that's just how I feel.
I have feelings about streaming. I had my mic muted for a second and I was already talking. Sorry. So yeah, I have strong feelings about streaming. Obviously, I was an early adapter of streaming when on live was a thing. I was an early beta alpha tester for that. And we brought it downstairs and tried it early on. This is during the PS3 era, right before the PlayStation streaming service had started. I already forget the name of it.
That was a
Um,
while ago.
right. So, and we knew then what the obvious um, hiccups were with the artifacting, like we mentioned, and lag. Lag was a big one.
Yeah, I tried.
Relying on your internet for a steady stream of quality is another thing.
And even not at 4K, even at
Yeah,
just trying to get 720 at that
right.
time, or
It's at that
of course
time,
things have improved since.
things
But I
have
tried
improved,
Stadia.
but things have
Stadia
improved,
wasn't that great
but at the
either.
same time, they really haven't because if you've tried streaming things on Game Pass, unless you're like super hardwired and have like T1 or T3, it
Mm.
can still be spotty. If you're playing with a cable, uh, if you're playing with a wired cable line and it's during peak hours, it could still be spotty. PS5 gaming at 4K. I don't know if I want to enter that dwelling and you know play with that because we already have issues just streaming at 1080p or
Yeah,
720p
yeah.
or whatever your
Mhm.
internet is capable of. Asking to do it at 4K, like you have to have the top tier internet providing
Uninterrupted
service
too.
uninterrupted, sole use for that towards that. Nobody could be using the internet, no one could be downloading, streaming, torrenting, whatever, right?
Yeah,
um the internet has to be probably using all of its power to be processing at a steady rate. Now, um, I have tried this, and this is an accurate demonstration of the games that are available. You have God of War Ragnarok, Horizon 2, Fortnite, Fall Guys, Destiny 2, PlayStation All Stars, or Destruction All Stars. I'm sorry. Sackboy, Death Stranding, which is one of my favorites, Demon Souls, Returnal, and more Fall Guys.
yeah. Good
So
luck on Demon Souls. You can't
yeah,
necessarily say it's my fault if I die, because you could always blame the stream.
well, I
Be
would say
like,
this.
I could have
Yeah,
swore I
I would
shouldn't
argue
have
the same
died
for
there.
I would
Was it?
argue the same for Returnal as well. Returnal is one of
Yeah,
those games that's just there's no room
precision
for
with that.
error, and yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's heavy on precision. So if you're
yeah.
dealing
No
with
room
an
for
internet
error.
that's even slightly hiccuping, you're
Yeah. Mm.
not gonna get the ultimate optimized experience.
Yeah.
And that's the concern I think with this streaming is that
Mhm.
um I don't I don't think the internet is there yet, and you
Well, the
know,
problem is that once the internet catches up, then the resolution expectation goes up as well. So
mhm,
it's always like this, one step forward, two steps back kind of
right.
deal. You know, like now, yeah, we can do 720, sure, no problem. It's like, well, it's 2023. You need at a minimum 1080. Where
Mhm.
what we really want is 4K. But if we can take 1080, and it's like, well, we can't necessarily do that perfectly yet, and it's like, you know what? Then forget the whole thing.
Yeah.
And forget the whole thing. Even the average person who isn't maybe like completely hip to all this, they may
Yeah.
play and be like, yeah, I don't know, it's all right. It kind of like skips around and stutters here and there. I'll just play the game like normal.
Yeah, I think reliable game streaming is still a generation out. Personally, I don't think we're gonna
Mm,
get to the type of quality it needs to be until at least the end of PS6. The internet has to catch up with that amount of data processing, and
yeah,
not
and it has to be
everybody.
affordable.
Yeah, and it has to be affordable. At that cost, you're trading off paying for actual games that are
Yeah.
either digital or retail. Um,
Hmm.
so you're not buying games, but you're paying for the service. So it's a trade-off, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the money that you're not spending on games and digital downloads, you're going to be spending on the internet to make sure that the quality is on par, plus the
yeah,
subscription model to
yeah.
play these on streaming. So it,
Right,
it
right.
adds up, is
Hmm.
a really cost effective. Also,
Yeah.
we've already know that streaming is really bad for the environment. So if we encourage this type of uh, this initiative where
Future, yeah.
yeah, where and it's already going like that with a lot of forms of entertainment, with music, with
Yeah,
video,
yeah,
and it looks
yeah.
like gaming wants to enter that
Hmm.
space. Not necessarily the developers themselves, but the companies who are
I'd
distributing
say,
and
yeah,
the main
publishers for
carriers of
sure.
hardware are
Yeah.
looking to get out of the hardware business. It
They
it,
don't want
it
you to own anything. They want you to
mhm.
just borrow on their terms.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
and
the
and
ultimate goal. Because why
right,
wouldn't it be? It's cheaper for them.
right.
There's more profit, so
Mhm.
that's what they're gonna want.
You already see companies like Disney pulling out of the retail space in
Yeah,
Australia. They're no longer making
right.
physical copies, and
Period.
I
Yeah,
and I feel like that's going to be a continuing trend. You're going to see all these companies push their streaming models,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're already trying to introduce on Xbox. They already have the 1 terabyte Black Series
S.
S.
Yeah.
That's going to be price competitive with their own Series X. There's also rumors floating around that Series X is going to get a discless model very soon. So uh,
Wow.
I
That's a
I'm
lot of
not looking.
SKUs floating around for
Yeah,
Microsoft.
PlayStation's the same way. Their latest PlayStation 5 refresh is supposed to be a one model fits all that has a detachable disk drive. So if you really want the disk drive,
Hmm.
you can buy it for an additional like $150 or whatever.
Yeah,
But the base model will no longer have a disk drive. So everybody's moving towards the digital download streaming. I don't think that um, it's optimal for gaming yet. I still, like I mentioned, we're still a generation behind. I think before the internet itself catches up with what they're doing and the amount
hmm,
of data that can be processed. Excuse me, but yeah, all around, I'm not for this. I didn't really have a great time streaming those PS5 games because PS5 games are pretty hefty. They need a lot of data, and again, if you're not with a reliable, I have reliable internet, but not everybody else does. And even with reliable
right. Yeah,
internet, I was still having problems and hiccups. It's not lag free like it promotes. There you still get some artifacting, refresh rate issues, stuff like that. So it's still existent. All the problems that you had with streaming is still existent, and I don't like the fact that they keep making streaming a bigger deal than it needs to be. It's a good option to
yeah,
have if you have nothing to game, sure, but
yeah. Exactly.
like again, you're
Yeah,
you're subsidizing the cost. So if you wanted to play Game Pass on like any other device, and not have to buy a Series X, you could do that. But again, you're gonna have to subsidize the cost with extremely high end internet, and yeah, I don't think that's very cost effective.
yeah. I feel like at that point, you know what? Just I don't know.
Yeah. Ernest, the last story for today. You wanted to talk about this in depth because reports are going around that developers are receiving their dev kits for the Switch 2.
Oh yeah.
Nintendo is apparently targeting a 2024 release launch window. and kits have already been sent ahead of launch, so developers can start creating games and have them ready by launch. And it's also rumored that this Switch 2 will be portable as well, much like the Switch, and will be backwards compatible. Ernest, what do you think about these thoughts?
I think these are all good things. I think they've got to make it. They've got to continue with that portable option because it was so successful with the Switch. I mean, the Switch did gangbusters, and to make a new one, but be like, oh, but it's not like portable anymore. People will be up in arms.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh,
mean,
I
up in
agree.
arms. Whether I personally would like to just have like a non-portable one because I don't really like portable gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You
but
you
like
you do own a Switch Lite though.
I have a Switch Lite. Yeah, it's
Same.
just it's fun to mess around and kick around, and it's fun. It's nice to have. Why do I have a Switch Lite and not a regular Switch? Well, because like they never officially really fixed or addressed the drift issue, and even sliding the Switch in and out of the dock, there is that risk of scratching the screen. And none of
Mm-hmm.
these things have been like with further revisions have been approved upon, discussed, dealt with. Um,
Right.
and so I'm like, then I don't know. It was one of those things where I spoke with my wallet and I was just like, you know what? No, no, you
Mm-hmm.
fix those things, I'll buy your product. If not, I'll get a Switch Lite so I technically have access, but I'm not getting a dock until these issues are not issues anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that ridiculous? Yeah, absolutely. But
I
I'll
don't think
admit it.
so.
And then the cost of the games. I mean, like, isn't that PS4, PS5 quality games? And it's like, okay, well, there's still the Nintendo tax. I'll pay a little bit more for them, but
Mm-hmm.
like Mario Odyssey is still like $60. I
Yeah,
mean,
Nintendo
again, I'm
rarely
not.
drops the title of their game, like the price of
Yeah,
their
but that
games.
just makes it like hard. Like whenever I'm gonna buy games, I'm not saying that this is right, but I'm gonna say for my situation,
Mm-hmm.
it's just tough where I'm like, I could buy like three really good like PS4 or PS5 games that are like on my list because I've got like
Mm-hmm.
a million games to buy, or I could buy like one Switch game for like 60
Mm-hmm.
bucks, and it's always really difficult. I'm always like, I'll get around to that later when I have no more $15 or $20 games to buy. Then I'll start looking. You know what? Maybe I'll just drop this 60 bucks and buy this 5-year-old Switch game or whatever.
Right.
Um, I think the timing is really good as far as like right now that we're entering the second half of 2023. Perfect time to get dev kits out to all developers, perfectly to coincide with the 2024 release date. I think that late fall would be good to drop it next year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit earlier. I think if they try to wait till a holiday, that's going to be too late, and it's going to be like just a zoo, just a
Mm-hmm.
madhouse at any store you go to. If you release it like a little bit earlier, I don't know. I'm no expert, but timing wise, I think it just feels right because that way it's been out for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
There's some buzz, talk about it, and then during the holiday season, it's just excitement just kind of continues to stay strong throughout the
Yeah.
whole second half of the year, you know. And as far as backwards compatibility, that's like for me the
Oh, we
thing
lost
that I
Ernest. There
want
he
to
is.
see. That's like the number one thing I want to see is backwards compatibility. If they do that, then I'll continue to keep my eye on and here and there purchase some Switch games because although they are expensive, I do occasionally just you know I just bite my tongue and just buy some of those games anyway. And if they're playable on the Switch 2 or whatever they call it, I really think they should call it the Super Nintendo Switch. That'd be fun. They
The
won't do
Super
that, but that would
Switch,
be fun.
Super
The Super
Nintendo Switch.
Nintendo Switch. Or yeah, the Super Switch is fun too. I mean, it's just fun, But if they do that, if they make it backwards compatible, I'm like all in on that.
Yeah.
Even better would be if they're able or willing to do a PS5 situation where not only is it like fully, it can't be like Microsoft. It's got to be full backwards compatibility,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be really nice if on the Switch 2 you could get higher resolution, but specifically higher performance.
Mm-hmm.
That would be like a
Like a
game changer.
performance boost. Especially
Yeah,
with
that
the
would be
especially with the
wow.
portable versions of the games, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
would be big.
Because a
Uh
lot of games, especially now, are just really pushing the Switch. I mean, it's
mhm.
very old tech.
Well,
and rightfully so.
yeah, the report states that it's coming in the second half of the year. I would almost argue that they should probably release it after the first quarter of the year, only because it creates early hype for the console. People can get their hands on it, right? So they start
But you got to
developing that.
have software ready. Though. You got to have a
Sure, of
lot of
course.
software for the
I
launch.
think that this news is just coming out now, but that developers have had this hardware for a little bit and
Yeah, I do agree.
had preliminary dev kits based upon what they know the Switch to already be and do, and they're
Mhm.
probably just using Switch kits right now just to maximize whatever they could do on the Switch hardware right now to get the development cycle started, and then once they
Yeah,
get definitive final kits they could build upon what they've already built with those kits, because it's the software is still going to be using NVIDIA hardware, so it's still going to be similar based, and that falls in line with the backwards compatibility. It's going to be the architecture of the hardware is going to be very similar, um,
right.
and so the portable aspect is smart. Honestly, I don't know if Nintendo were the Switch would be this popular if it wasn't a portable device.
I completely
Nintendo,
agree. I'm
nin,
sorry. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Nintendo has had such a stronghold on the portable market for the
yeah,
last 3 decades, almost
yeah,
entering
yeah,
four now,
yeah.
that you got to have something amazing to knock them off their block. And even if you do, you like
Yeah,
Sony had something amazing
dude,
twice and still
the
couldn't
Vita was.
compete.
Yeah, I still am like the Vita was just amazing. Like it was ahead
Mhm.
of its time,
Yeah, and
and people love it.
It's funny how the Switch takes a lot out of the Vita's page book now. You got the touch
Yeah,
screen.
the
They use the
OLED
carts. They
screen
use
now, and
the memory carts for games.
yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of things that the Vita did, the Switch totally copied and mimicked.
yeah,
But
yeah. But it's
more power.
Nintendo, and
Yeah, more power to them. They take something that's not the regular of what everybody's doing right now, and they make it their exclusive thing. That's their niche. But
yeah,
I don't see like this first Switch. I don't see the second Switch being popular if it's not in portable mode, because
yeah.
people want to be able to take that game and go, and then when they come home, they can just continue right where they left off.
They're
That's
used to it.
great.
There's no way. There's no
Mhm.
way you can take that away now. Like, I
Right.
mean, after the Switch 2, I mean, I don't know. I think this is Nintendo's business model moving forward, kind of like what
Yeah.
they're doing with Zelda, unless something weird happens.
Yeah, and
Because,
if
like
they
you
can prove
said,
that this works for the second
yeah,
iteration, they'll never
yeah,
go back
yeah,
again. There's
yeah. Because
it's going to be the
Nintendo's,
standard.
they're as far as handhelds are
Hmm.
is concerned, that's like, yeah, that's they own that market, and then this
Hmm.
way they're gonna always have to have a presence there. And with this situation, when people are used to the Switch, I feel like it's going to be very hard for them to have something where they're like, hey, Switch 2 is not going to be portable, but we'll have like another, like a different portable console. I don't think that's going to work out. I
Yeah.
think just continuing to make their premier hardware both, dockable and
Hmm.
portable is just they can't go back from that. Audience will not allow them to either,
No.
and it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I think
And if they
backwards
did
compat.
do that, then they wouldn't be able to get away with such outdated hardware either.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This system's not going to be a 4K system. It's probably going to be 1440p at the most.
Mm.
Um, and because they could barely do 1080p right now,
Yeah, yeah, they
so
could barely. They're like really pushing that
l-
720 on the
so
dock mode
portable
anyway. So
locking it at 1080p. You got to lock the portable at 1080p, and I think for the first iteration you do 1440p, and then
mhm.
you do a Switch to Pro or whatever, or
4K.
OLED model or whatever at 4K. Um, yeah,
I wonder if
and
it's going to be OLED. By the way, like the standard. Do you think
I've
the
heard that
standard
it's
will?
not. I've heard that it's not.
Oh,
From what I've heard, it's going to go back to an LCD screen just because it's
that might be hard for
cheaper.
some people.
Yeah, for people enjoying the OLED version of the Switch right now, it's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
going to be hard. It's going to be a step back. Um,
yeah.
and the
Because
screen
I don't
size
have
has
an
to be.
OLED one,
Yeah.
but like everybody, all the impressions I've heard are that the OLED
Hmm.
is really nice. Like
Yeah,
the
there's no
OLED
going back.
screen is, yeah, there's
Yeah,
no going back.
it's
It's
like
really
the
that
Vita
much of an
mods. It's
improvement.
like the Vita and the PSP mods. Once you put in that OLED screen, you're not. you're not
Yeah.
going back. You know what I mean? Like
No.
this, it's such a step up that why go backwards?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see them going backwards because they're Nintendo, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a cost effective measure. The screen
Yeah.
can't be as small as the standard; it would have to be as big as the OLED. So it'd have to
Hmm.
be a bigger LCD screen. If they do,
Yeah, I see that
if
too.
they even
Maybe a
go that
bigger.
route, um, another thing is that it's Nintendo, so you know that it's going to be sold out everywhere, so that's why I say
Yeah.
they should release it in the first quarter, because they soft launch it at the beginning of the year. They print, like, I don't know, a million iterations
You think they'll have
of
enough time though to print enough? Because
I think
I,
they're already. I think that they're already manufacturing this device, and it's not going to be very long before we hear about the reports of this coming back, because or releasing rather soon, because again, they're already developing the games for launch. Developers already have final dev kits, and for all intents and purposes, final dev kits. And Nintendo is aggressive, with the recent Mario Brothers movie, and they're making moves, and I could see this system easily being out by March 2024 with a couple of first party Nintendo games. And then everybody can just make ports of whatever games that are popular right now or at the time. It's very easy. It wouldn't be super rocket science. And if they
yeah.
build an architecture that's very similar and and take advantage of Unreal Engine 5 hardware or
Oof.
software, that would be great. It would be easier for devs to just port it to the Switch. Obviously it would be the low end model, very similar to probably what the specs would be on the Series S.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit
If that
less.
even. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
probably even slightly less.
I'm
Um,
thinking we're to get PS4 level. That'd be like a good target to aim for.
yeah. Oh, definitely. Or
But do you
slightly
think
underneath it.
PS4? Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because right now I
That
think the
said,
Switch is kind of doing like Xbox 360 level visuals.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, the step up would be, I think,
Like, yeah.
maybe not even
PS4.
PS4, maybe like Xbox One. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like toaster Xbox One, like
Yeah.
the
Like
big one.
OG. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
like if they can match the Xbox One original quality, I would be happy with that. And that would be a big step up for Nintendo, because, like I said, right now they're doing sub 720p in portable
Yeah.
mode, and then 720 to 1080 depending on the quality of the game and docked.
Hmm.
So if you
Yeah.
can just do a solid locked 1080 on in portable mode and do 1440 to 4K in the rare moments that 4K is affordable on the hardware, like
It
it's
should have
not.
the capability. Yeah.
Right, exactly. um I also see Nintendo adding more app friendly programs to their Switch, meaning like some of the streaming services that we already see, like Hulu and Netflix. I think that that's next console, now that they kind of have the gist of what they want to make. I think that they'll have those programs rolling in more, because on the Switch you can't really watch Netflix. You can add Hulu. Hulu's on there,
Hmm.
but there's not
But
a lot
not
of those
everything.
entertainment, right? And I think with maybe the Switch, you start to see Nintendo become more media friendly. And I think that was their
Hmm.
ploy with the Mario movie. Obviously, they have a good relationship with Universal now, and Peacock I could totally see being on that app or that console.
Yeah.
It's I see them
It has to
expanding.
say has to
Yeah,
say 4K on the box though.
right.
I feel
Yeah,
like no matter what they do, if they release a Switch 2 and somewhere on the box doesn't have the words 4K,
doesn't have the words
I
4K
mean, I
on
don't
it.
know if I would say dead on arrival, but
Mhm.
like I don't know. Nintendo marketing should not allow that.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happen. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks, months. Hopefully, some news will drop, some tidbits. A leaked picture of the console will drop, and we'll have a better idea of what it is we're dealing with. It's probably just going to be like a beefed up version of the Switch, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because it's already proven that's successful. And I think Nintendo learned not to rock the boat too much with the
Yeah,
Wii.
with that Wii
Uh,
U.
with the Wii and the Wii U, and the Switch is almost kind of like a step back to that Wii era, because it features all the same motion controls and whatnot in the Joy Cons,
Hmm.
and um but it's like the best parts of both. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like what they wanted the Wii U to become was what the Switch ultimately was realized
Yeah.
as.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see what gimmick Nintendo adds to this console, because there's always some sort of gimmick ever since
Huh.
the Super
You think so?
Nintendo,
You
I
think
think.
they'll add
Yeah,
something
every Nintendo
something
console has
new?
had a
You
yeah,
think so?
every console has had a gimmick of some sorts. The
That's
Nintendo
true.
64 had
Yeah.
the Trident controller.
The
That was
yeah,
the
yeah.
gimmick.
Yep.
And the thumbstick, that was new at the time.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
had
the
that.
analog, yeah.
Yeah, that was the gimmick. The 3DS, the gimmick was 3D, you know.
Hmm. DS, the gimmick was two screens.
Two screens. And
The
with
Wii,
Wii,
obviously,
motion control. With
the Wii
the Wii
U,
U, it was the tablet controller.
gamepad, yeah.
Right, the tablet controller gamepad, right? So with the Switch, the gimmick is that it's all of those things for the home and portable
Right.
markets. And they already rule the portable market. So now it's convincing all the portable people, hey, you could actually play this on your big screen, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
um yeah, we'll see what happens when Switch 2 drops, or any more leaks come to light, but it's very interesting. It sounds like they're making all the right moves so far.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm really curious to see if they are going to come up with a little something new, as they do with
Mhm.
with each console. I don't know what they're planning, what they're going to do, but I am very curious to see what happens.
Ernest, it is extremely hot in this garage where I film this show at, and my kids are running amok. So we're gonna wrap this up today.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah.
Where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter. I am Emperor underscore Ernest.
And folks can find me on Instagram and Twitter, or X, at Moses IVVIOC. You can also follow us at The Cultured Nerd. And this show has an exclusive Instagram channel at The Cultured Gamer Podcast. Please follow. We update the page with news tidbits and the IG stories almost daily. And yeah, it's a little great community that we're building up. Please follow us, and we'll be dropping more news tidbits daily on that page as well.
There are some things in the works, so yeah,
Yeah,
stay tuned.
and we also have another show that's going to be coming soon too. We'll drop more details about that in the near future. But that's going to be it for us today. Thank you for joining me today, Ernest.
Yeah, thanks, man. Have a great week, everybody.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for supporting our show and watching. Please subscribe as well. You can also visit us on Patreon at patreon.com/the cultured nerd. You can support this show's tier and all the other shows. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you're watching this from right now. We deeply appreciate the subs and support. I want to thank Ernest again for joining us, our Patreon supporters, Wesley, Mitch, Connor, Anna, Oscar, Craig, and Salib. And I want to give a shout out to Jose Navarro at Navarro and Jose M for creating the logo. Thank you for watching and joining us today. If you like this episode, click the thumbs up. If you like the content we produce, please subscribe. We deeply appreciate the support. And if you want more cultured nerd goodness, go ahead and scan that QR code. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.